So like I said, I'm trying to define the eye shape, make sure it's right before I go any farther. You always have to have a starting place that's accurate, and then you can measure off that starting place. So for me, it's going to be the eyes. And I'm not painting the eyes to finish, but I'm going to try and get the shape exactly right. Now, when I'm measuring this, I'm seeing that the inside of my eye, if you draw a straight line down, will correspond with the outside of my nostril here. So that's always a good thing to keep an eye on. Get it? To watch while you're doing this. One thing with portraits, and this sounds a little funny, but one of the very hard things to do is to make sure that you get both the eyeballs round and looking in the same place. So I'm sort of making sure I do that. Again, now I'm dipping back into this dark color and a little red, a little dark color. It's just this defining line that I use here. I add a little bit more red. This cadmium red deep is a very good drawing color. Now, even when I'm trying to define this now, define these eyes, they're not perfect, and they won't be until I start doing the final painting. But I want to make sure they're in the right spot, really accurately in the right spot, that the eyeballs are sort of the right size in relationship to the rest of my head. Okay, I'm dipping back now. I'm going to do a little drawing defining this outside edges here on the temple area. This space becomes very important, this outside space. I'm going to go to a different brush, a little bit bigger brush here. These are this distance here between the outside of my eyebrow and the temple, and the straightaway sort of a painting defines the size really of my head. So it's much darker than it really is, but I want to I know later on I'm going to lighten it up. I'm going to go to the other side here. And what I'm really looking for is this space from the outside of my eyebrow, which is going to be right here, to the distance that I see to where my hair is going to begin. So I see it something about like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Well, I use this reducing glass. I don't know if I've talked about that before. But at this stage, I always, rather than getting up and down and having to look at this painting from a distance, I use the reducing glass, and it's very helpful. See, once I define these areas and the size of this head properly, then I'll know. Then I'll be able to see if this headpiece is too big or too small, and then I'll change that, because the headpiece becomes quite important in defining the real shape of the face. Okay, now I'm going to go back up in here, and I'm going into this middle base color which I have here. I'm going to add a little bit of red to it because I see a little bit of red. I've just come in from the sun, and so I'm a little redder up in there today. Now, we'll go back to the eyeballs again. I want to define the tops and edges of my eyebrows at this point. You're going to feel, I don't always do these exactly the same, but my principles, my mental principles are the same, in that I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting at least one portion of this head right. Once I feel absolutely confident that one portion of it, in this case the eyes, are in the right place, in the right size, and everything's working there, then I can confidently move ahead with my measurements. But if you don't have any confidence that your measurements are right, you don't really have anything, you don't have any bearings in the picture. You don't have any bearings. So I'm getting my bearings. Okay, so I'm defining the tops of the eyebrows. I notice as I get older and my eyebrows get wider, it's easier to, it's a little more interesting. So I'm going to add some color into these eyebrow areas. You got to feel, make sure they're the right sort of size. So I'm mixing a little gray and a little black, and they're more dark than they are light. So at this point, I'm going to make them sort of grayish. Now on the very outside edges of the eyebrows, there's a strong highlight, so I'm going to put that in there now. Anything that you see in the process here that stands out to you, a highlight or a shadow that stands out to you, those are the ones we want to pay attention to at this stage of the game. Okay, well, allow me to, I've explained to you what I'm doing. Now I'm going to proceed on my own a little bit, so otherwise it's going to get very boring for you.